A police beating caught on tape is dividing officials in Denver. It happened outside a nightclub in April last year, and now the FBI has been asked to investigate. Before we speak exclusively with the two men who were beaten, here's what happened. The video shows 25-year-old Shawn Johnson on the ground being arrested by police when his friend, 24-year-old Michael DeHerrera, immediately called his father, a sheriff's deputy, for advice. It was then that another officer grabbed DeHerrera and slammed him to the ground, repeatedly beating him with a metal club.
Many times a small section of a video does not tell the whole story, and that's what we have in this case.
The officers contend that the two men were severely intoxicated and started an altercation that was not seen on the tape.
It doesn't explain and doesn't show the actions of the complainants striking one of the officers. That's a big factor in why they were arrested.
But the city's independent investigator calls the police report pure fiction and a cover-up. He says the officers should be fired, not suspended for 3 days.
The only way they would have been justified is if the officer truly believed that the complainant was about to strike him. From the video, that certainly does not appear to be the case.
And joining us now exclusively are Shawn Johnson and Michael DeHerrera and Michael's father, Anthony. Good morning to you all.
Good morning.
You got kicked out of the club.
Yes.
Right. Was there an altercation? Did you have an altercation with the police?
I did. Not in the beginning. The police, my altercation with them was when they were attacking me on the street.
Mm-hmm.
The first altercation I had was just with the bouncer after I had been removed.
Right.
Outside the club, he struck me in my face twice.
Right.
And there was an officer standing there in uniform but off duty who didn't intervene, and that's when I decided this is not going to end well for me, understanding the relationship that they forged.
Mm-hmm. So
then I just took off.
Okay.
And then I woke up in the street.
That's the last thing you remember. You see your friend being beaten up, so you get on the phone and let me rephrase that. You see your friend being arrested by police, at which point you call your father, who spent his entire life in law enforcement. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, and what did you hear on the phone?
Michael was screaming into the phone, "Dad, they're beating up Shawn. Dad, they're beating up Shawn." And I said, "Michael, who's beating up Shawn?" And he just kept saying, "Dad, they're beating up Shawn."
Mm-hmm.
Then all of a sudden I hear some sirens in the background, so I figure, well, some kind of law enforcement is there wherever he's at.
Right.
They're going to get him some help. Then the next thing I hear is drop the phone and some obscenities, and then I hear a thud. And then Michael wasn't talking anymore, so I knew he had been hit.
Mm-hmm.
And then I had an open line for 7 minutes just hearing the beating.
Right.
And the last thing I heard was, "We've got to get rid of the phone." They were recording us, and then the phone went dead.
Right. Oh, you heard them say that?
Yes, me and my wife both heard them.
You
say
could
that.
hear you said that.
My wife was
your
on the other.
contention is you can hear the police saying we got to get rid of the phone.
At that time, we didn't know it was the police, but
Right.
yes, we did hear that.
Right.
And then both their phones disappeared.
Okay, you've spent your entire life on the job. They're in a bar scene. Kid gets kicked out. People can get riled up. They can be in a confrontation with police. Is it possible, because the police contend, there's stuff on the tape that you don't see that exacerbated this situation. Is it possible that these kids were in the wrong somehow, from your perspective?
I don't think so, because I think the officers messed it up from the start. Instead of defusing the situation, they escalated the situation.
Mm-hmm. And did you ever fight back? I mean, from the tape that we saw, we see no resistance on your part.
No, not at all.
Right. And did you try to fight back when the police were trying to subdue you?
Not with the police, not at all. I remember when I woke up in the street, I was already in handcuffs. There were 2 officers on top of me, and someone was already grinding into my ankle.
Mm-hmm.
There was no way for me to fight back. I was yelling. I remember even yelling, "Someone call the police. Can someone call the police?" Because I could see all these people around.
Mm-hmm.
And Officer Murr said, "We are the effing police."
Mm-hmm.
And then I remember yelling for them to stop, because Michael was already on the ground, he was already unconscious, but they were still beating him.
Right.
And I remember yelling, "His dad's a sheriff, like, stop, like, please stop."
Mm-hmm.
But that's
Right.
the only resistance that
Your
was
son
happening.
offers no resistance. All he is doing is talking on his cell phone. When
Right.
you see that tape of these guys treating your son the way they did, what goes through your heart and mind?
It makes me sick. It makes me sick that something like this would happen to such a good son. He's never been in any trouble before, never been in an altercation before.
Mm-hmm.
And for him just to be calling for help and to be treated like this, it's crazy.
Right. I'm trying to parse through this, because the Denver's manager of safety reviewed the case and found no evidence of excessive force. FBI is finally, being called into this. Just looking at it just looking at the tape, and you say there's more tape that shows.
Yes, there's clearly better video than that's out there right now. Our lawyer has it, and hasn't been released for some reason yet, but it clearly zooms back in on Michael while the beating is taking place, and he is clearly unconscious, not moving, not resisting, and they continue to hit him, and I believe I was told 45 times, 14 times with the sack.
Shawn, Michael, Anthony, thank you all for taking the time to be with us today.
Thank you.